everybody. Thank you for tuning in, watching, or listening. This is your host, Chris Baker, and you're watching the podcast, Tell Me Your Story. And today's special guest is Deonte Carter, and he's here to tell his story. So we're going to do like how we always do. We're just going to jump right into this and start from the very beginning, the early years, childhood, just kind of talk about that first, and then we'll, go from there.
Well, born and raised in Akron, Ohio. My father, his name is George Carter, and my mother, her name is Vera May Carter. And I was the older sibling between my father and mother. I have a younger brother. He's about 2 years younger than me. And as I mentioned, born and raised in Akron, Ohio. It was an interesting time, being that my father, he medically retired from doing truck driving. And my mother did school, but also stayed at home, made sure that we were okay, me and my little brother. But when I was about 6 years old, my father had passed away. And it was a time that I didn't necessarily process my emotion of sorrow. And it's interesting because on the limousine ride to bury my father, it's like this particular song that just really resonates with me. And it was by Whitney Houston, I Want to Run to You. And when I turned 8 years old, I would cry whenever I would hear that song, and it connected to the passing of my father. So to segue into growing up after my father had passed, my mother, which it happens with grief, there's arduous times when grieving at times. So there was the ridicule amongst family, and I have an older half brother that did not really see eye to eye with my mother. And so much of that tension brought me and my brother into foster care. And I never blamed my mother for us getting into foster care. And it was a rocky transition when we were in a foster home from about me being 8 years old going up until I was about 15. And throughout that time, there was one foster home that was like a respite foster home we stayed. And then me and my brother, we stayed with my uncle down in Columbus for a year. And then after that, the majority of the time, me and my brother, we were in a foster home. And it was an eye-opening experience, being that growing up after the passing of my father, we were pretty devout Jehovah's Witnesses. So no holidays, no birthdays. And it really, it was a hard time to see friends and see that they're having birthdays and enjoying, and we didn't participate in any of that. And although it was tough growing up that way, when everything after my father had passed, it's something that I could look back on and kind of appreciate. Now I'm a more spiritual, non-denominate Christian, but into foster care, it was a pastor that was our foster mother. And it was a prominent AME church that she was a part of, African Methodist Church in Barberton. And well, she was so revered by so many. And but on the flip side of that, we got talked down to a lot. And there was other foster children that got demeaned. And my foster mother, she's African American, and she would use slurs against not only me and my brother, but I have an older foster brother, an older foster sister that had really dealt with those hard times. And when I would run away a lot, I would run away a lot. I would find after school programs to be a part of, diversity clubs, to just be away from all of that hardship. And this was the time that I was raped by my foster brother. And so kind of the pecking order within my foster mother's house was she held favorites to three people, three children, her adopted daughter and her two grandsons. And it was one of her grandsons that had raped me when in foster care. And it was something to where I didn't know what to feel. I didn't know why I was deserved, why this was the level of treatment I received while in foster care. And I would just constantly think to myself, why me? What did I do? What did I wear? What was the motive to the purpose of me getting raped by a grandson of this pastor?
And what age were you when this happened?
It's about 11,
So
12 years old.
so you were still fairly young.
Absolutely. And I was able to dial into resources within Akron that was connected with Children's Services Board of Summit County that had counseling services. But I never talked about my trauma from rape.
Yeah,
It
because
was just always the trauma of
you didn't.
not being allowed to go into the refrigerator, sitting on the steps,
Was
things of that nature.
was it more so that you just didn't think they would believe you, or why didn't you tell us or speak up?
It was to the point of not being believed, because every time I ran away, I would say, why not get us out of this home? Because of the treatment and the unfairness of how me, my brother, my older foster brother and sister were treated versus her adopted daughter and her two grandchildren. And I did that calculus in my head to where I felt that no one is believing me when I run away. So why would they believe me if I spoke up about me being raped? So it was something that I wrestled with for a very long time.
And
And
like from what I'm getting out of it and looking at it from, putting myself in your shoes, is pretty much they would have seen you as just, this kid that just wanted to run away. But they didn't want to look into it and think, why does he want to run away? Why, they didn't want to ask the questions. And really, they looked at you just as the juvenile, the kid that was the troublemaker. But you were doing it for a reason, but nobody wanted to ask questions.
to even add on to that, it was the reputation of the pastor, of my foster mother. She emitted this presence of being so revered by just community as just this spiritual leader. And how could this happen in her home? And I would constantly tell children, I was constantly telling Children's Services Board of Summit County that, hey, this is happening. This is what has happened. We're not allowed to go in the refrigerator. We're getting shoes thrown at us. We're subjected to sitting on the steps. And it led into just not even alluding to me being raped. And I just felt that if that's not being believed, it's not going to change anyone's minds, and I've made suggestions of different programs of saying, can we get reassigned to a different foster home, get put into put into safe landing, so many different resources that a child at the age of 11, 12 years old, in my mind, shouldn't have had the Rolodex of just all of this information of just different services. I just feel like it was something to where should be focused on sports, clubs to be a part of.
It,
But it was constantly me having that index of how to reach out for help. And it was something that I did not stop doing, being that I felt that there has to be someone to hear my story, hear what me and my brother has been through, to the point that they can be that change agent and say something. And we had moved from North Hill, Akron into Barberton. And as we were moving, I noticed there was a plaza with Children's Services Board in that plaza. And I just mentally took that picture and just said, this is where this is located. If I am going to run, this is where I'm going. And I just cataloged the route we were going to this house that we were moving into. So it was a route that was set up and ready. So there was a time that my foster mother had company over, and my brother wanted something out of the refrigerator, and I went into the refrigerator to get it. My foster mother heard me in the refrigerator. She called both of us into the living room. What are you doing in the refrigerator? I said, I'm getting my brother something to drink. And even her company was putting us down and saying, you're not allowed to go into the refrigerator and all of this. And we got sent back to our rooms. And to frame it up of how my little brother had seen what had happened, my brother had went to bed, and he looked at me, and I was looking out the window, and he turned around and tried to go to sleep. And then he turned back around, and my brother, to this day, he said, you were up the street. You were gone and up the street. And it was just within Not even 2 minutes. You were looking out the window. I turned around, 2 minutes had elapsed, turned back around. You were up the street. So I ran and went the same route I remembered, going to Children's Services Board of Summit County within Barberton, Ohio. And I had pleaded with this police officer, please, I need to talk with my caseworker. Something needs to change. Something really needs to change. Me and my brother, we can't live like this anymore. The first thing the cop did, he called my foster parent, and from what he had stated after getting off the phone with her, well, she's a well-respected pastor. You all should talk about this. Everything will be smoothed out. She was worried sick about your well-being. And in my mind, I'm saying, no, this is a game
No,
she's
yeah.
putting into your sphere of thought. And after me saying, hey, please, can I talk with my caseworker? He finally called my caseworker, and this was a new caseworker, fresh out of school. And she said, after looking over your file and the many times you ran away, I'm getting you and your brother out of this house. I don't see that you're making this up. There's a reason for you all to run, for you to run away, and there's a problem.
Good, when it finally clicked.
And
Somebody finally understood.
absolutely. And it was the aha moment for sure.
Yeah.
And it just it for even me to reminisce on that, it sends chills that it was someone that heard finally listened. And she came down to Barberton. She drove me back to my foster home. She just said, when you get in there, you let your brother know, just pack up your things. Don't say anything to your foster parent. Just go straight to your room, pack your things. I will talk to her. And she read, my caseworker read her the Riot Act for sure and said, hey, there's a reason Deonte kept running away and something isn't right. And she left it at that. And we went back to Akron. And after, there was a couple of foster homes that my brother and I stayed in. And by the age of 15, my mother was able to get us back. And it felt really good to be reunited with my mother. And she went through so many different programs to get us back. And as I mentioned before, I never blamed her for grieving. There was a lot of scrutiny from family, from her friends after my father had passed away. And it was just that mentally arduous for my mother to just piece it together and keep her composure. And I was just grateful that my mother got me and my little brother back.
Yeah.
And to kind of segue through high school, it became part of a culinary arts restaurant management program. I went to Garfield at that time and had a magnificent rapport with just all of the juniors that I was with in restaurant management, and I really just enjoyed cooking at the time. And after losing my father at the age of 6, I had said to myself that I need to have some sort of structure. And although I had male figures throughout the times in foster care, I felt like I needed to get a little bit more of a structured upbringing after I get out of high school. And
But
I made a
my
decision.
question is
Oh,
for that,
yes,
being
yes.
that everything that took place, being that you were raped by somebody, um, did it have an effect on you when it came to finding a male mentor, or how did you handle that situation? Was it tough or was it kind of easy going?
It was, I felt that my, because I looked to him as a foster brother, but he was the grandchild of my foster mother. And it wasn't it wasn't difficult, being that I had so many other, I didn't paint the red flag for every male friend to just label and say this person is taking a liking to me, so they're a potential aggressor. And it was never anything like that. I felt like something wasn't right with my foster brother doing that. And it just helped me to just really recognize that it was, and this came to this conclusion at an early age, that for a male to seek help is not a sign of weakness, it's a strength. And there's so much stigma and ideologies of, well, how could you let that happen to you're a man, you're masculine, this shouldn't this shouldn't be the case for you to be victimized, for you to be raped. And it's something that stuck with me, that right is right and wrong is wrong, and bad things happen no matter what gender, what sex a person is. An aggressor can be anyone, regardless of gender, sex, as far as it goes. And it was something that I came to a conclusion to. And even while I was going to high school, the movie Antoine Fisher came out, and I really wanted to check this movie out. And it's on my bucket list. I want to meet Antoine Fisher, being that his life is so paralleled to my own. He's born and raised in Akron, Ohio. So was I. He grew up in foster care. So did I. He's a survivor of sexual assault and rape. So was I. He joined the United States Navy, and I joined the Department of the Navy, United States Marines. And it was like watching my life play before my eyes. And I cried in that movie. And I didn't hold back. I felt his story was just so identical. About 85% of his life just felt like me watching my life.
And it was probably the first time in your life that you actually felt like, hey, I'm not alone. Somebody else has been in the same boat, same position, dealt with the same thing as me, and now I got somebody that I can kind of like look up to, reach out to eventually in the future.
Absolutely. And it really, it's something that at that age, when seeing that movie, I felt like, wow, it's like I have a big brother that been through this. And and it's interesting. He has a liking to poetry and wrote poetry, and I wrote poetry at that time, and I'm off and on doing it, but it's just one of those things. Just so many likings aligned, and moving forward, that's going into the Marines and after boot camp, and I was a cook in the Marines, and I wanted to continue my culinary prowess and really dive deep into this different style of cooking versus civilian styles of cooking, going into military style of cooking. So that was
Give us a
some.
taste of what it is like cooking in the military.
So cooking in the military, there's some easy stuff that's in a bag that you put in and let boiling water cook. But then there's culinary cuisine that you actually would cook, whether it's chicken, steak. We did omelet bars. So we would make a egg white omelet for someone if they would want an egg white omelet, a traditional omelet with whatever type of toppings they would want inside their omelet. It was it it wasn't something so distinctly different. There was a lot of similarities from civilian culinary arts to military culinary arts. And I would say the only step up, the only difference was how we cooked whenever we would go on a deployment. And these were like traditional kind of ways of cooking the food, but kind of like a RV style kind of cooking. And you had powdered eggs, dehydrated eggs that you would cook for breakfast and put so much amounts of water into, and you could just tell they weren't eggs. Um, it just vacuum sealed dehydrated meats and rehydrating and then cooking them like a traditional meal. And it was that was the part that opened my eyes, and it it was something that, although I enjoyed doing, I felt like it was more of a recreational kind of liking versus something that I would want to do as my calling. Um, I had switched over from the Marines to the Army after serving 5 years. I did 2 deployments with the Marines, and while in the Marines, a lot of it was kind of food inspecting kind of work. When I did deploy to Iraq, and nationals from different countries, from Sri Lanka, India, so basically being the food inspector, making sure everything was at the proper temperature and putting it in the logbook and all of that. But transitioning into the Army, I became a petroleum supply specialist. So pretty much we tested fuel before it went into any type of vehicle, whether it was a tracked vehicle like a tank, an up armored vehicle like a mine resistant vehicle, a Humvee, and we constantly recirculated fuel in where it's like these filters that we would recirculate this fuel in these trucks before we would pump it into aircraft. So we fueled up helicopters, different types of military helicopters, jets, and did a lot of field exercises for that. But when I did my year deployment to Iraq, it was something to where we did a lot of convoys, escorting equipment and escorting interpreters in the efforts of Operation Iraqi Freedom, transitioning into Operation New Dawn. And while all that was happening, and de- being deployed twice in the Marines and once in the Army, it it was something to where I said, these are not my true callings. What can I do? And after separating from the Army, I did a lot of different odd jobs, working at the post office as a mechanic on automation, letter automation machines, worked at Coca-Cola as a merchandiser. Um, it was just a lot of pieces that were fill-ins, and me just trying to get a feel of what I would want to do. And I got started with my degree in human and social services, my associates, and the light came on, the idea light came on finally. And sitting down with my academic advisor, I was thinking, okay, criminal justice. And then my advisor had said, well, you did similar work in the military geared towards criminal justice. And you did the police academy with Akron University, and you've seen how it was, the racial lines were still up for police relations and profiling, and it's
What?
something you.
Hold on. What year was this? What year is this?
Now this is, so graduated the police academy in 2018, and I did another trade kind of training for computer numerical control as like a backup if things didn't work out for me going into for my associates in criminal justice initially. So I had the computer numerical control certification as backup. So when I go into when it was me going into my associate's degree at the university I was attending, my advisor helped me to just realize that human and social services would be a great springboard for you. And and this is my advisor talking to me about this, she had said, you told your story about your life and how you dealt with that. And it seems it's going towards you wanting to advocate and help other populations, similar populations that have been in foster care, that have been in the military, that are survivors of sexual assault, rape. And for you to have went through the process of getting counseling even after you got out of foster care and going into the military and speaking about your traumatization and all of this and how to move forward in life. This is a story that can help others.
Yes.
And I was just truly thankful that she was that faith driven to be that guidance, support, and to just really just peel back the layers and rewind back to when I met her and I talked to her about my story and my life, and she just articulated and pieced it together and said, this is what you can do to just be so helpful to these different walks of life, similar populations that are going through all of this.
Yes.
And this was like the second to the last semester I was attending, the university I was attending. And one of my advisors, Deborah Johns, she was talking to us about elevator speeches. And it was something that it was this gut wrenching feeling of, wow. And I identified a rape crisis center within Stark County, and I had said, this is where I'm going to do my elevator speech. This is where I want to be a part of a team that is doing their best, putting forth the effort to change the dynamic of rape culture, sexual assault, prevention, making prevention, safety planning. And so Chris, I'm telling you, I went to Compass, and an elevator speech is like a minute, 2 minutes tops. And I go in, I walk in, and the case manager at the time, I had said, good afternoon, my name is Deonte Carter, told my story. And I said, I just want to be a part of the solution to changing the narrative of what the cycles of a survivor goes through. And making the point be very clear to a survivor that it wasn't the cologne you were wearing, the perfume you were wearing, the type of clothes you were wearing. This was something geared on the aggressor, really laying the foundation of power and control. And I had spoke this to this case manager, Tanya Cliff, and she literally said, oh my goodness, you are speaking our language. And it's so true on what you're speaking. I'm taking your name down. I'm bringing this up to the victim advocate supervisor and our director.
Wow.
And don't be surprised if you get a call tonight or early tomorrow morning.
Wow. Wow, man. I mean, just tell me, how did that feel in that moment, just to hear that?
It was refreshing. It was truly eye-opening to just be heard and to just it was my mind, heart, and soul synced up as one to just get the point across that what's going on with survivors and helping them get connected with services and making it be known that it's okay. It is okay to seek help and advisement through community support. It should not be something that your friends or your family that would be that influence of saying, well, if you go this route, you might lose your job because you're talking to a counselor or you're going to get this kind of help. Those are false statements, being that survivors can be protected by FMLA. the Family Medical Leave Act, and the Department of Labor protects employees no matter where you work, whether the private sector, federal sector, what have you. An employer has no right to get into information involving health, behavior health, and then use that and weaponize that and say, well, you went to this appointment, that's making our company look bad, you're fired. They cannot do that.
No, they shouldn't be able to do that.
And it's just so ingrained into society that I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want my friends to look at me this way. I don't want my family to embarrass me. How are they going to look at me? And it's just being that piece, that support system, to being a part of that equation, to say, look, there may be some family that's going to be behind you and wanting you to get help and support. There will be those critics that will say otherwise. But this is the point that you have to draw away from them and just not focus on that dialogue that they're putting out there about you, because it's a strength. It truly is a strength to seek help, and it's not a weakness to let that cultural or environmental stigma to run rampant mentally on a survivor going through all of that. So it's something, as an advocate, and just recently
Hold on.
Yes.
You hit on a really strong note.
Yes.
And I kind of, just in case I didn't fully understand what you were talking about, say it one more time so that people know.
It is.
So they know.
It is a strength to seek help. Whether it's talking to your counselor, finding a professional, because mental health affects physical health, and physical health can affect mental health. And it's that vital to anyone that's going through trauma or an arduous time, that's that mentally bearing on someone's well-being. And I do my best to drive that point home with friends that have been through foster care, my brothers and sisters in arms that's been in the military, and survivors. And whether they are friends, personal friends that have talked to me about their story, or going on a crisis call and talking with a survivor, it's that important to make that point be clear, and to change that swept under the rug taboo subject of, this is going to make me look weak if I go to a counselor for XYZ, for sexual assault, rape, dealing with trauma, coming out of the military. It's something that is so important to just your own mental well-being leading into your physical well-being, and it goes backwards as well.
And I gotta jump in here real quick. And it's kind of channeling in right now that somebody that's watching or listening, that they are currently dealing with a situation where they have a really, really good day, but when they go to sleep at night, they have flashbacks. They're having nightmares. What would your advice be to that person to help them in that situation? What can you say to help that person to get so that they know that it's okay with the flashbacks and the nightmares that they're dealing with and they've been dealing with?
My advice is to really just know that you're not alone. Know that this is something that is being dealt with by multiple walks of life, different populations. So don't feel like you're alone. And another point to that is I would tell this person it is okay. It is okay to talk to a friend, cry to a friend, whether you're a male, whether you're a female. It is okay. It's therapeutic to be able to express yourself and really go into the details you're comfortable with talking about. And if it's getting to the point where it's that overbearing for some for the nightmares and all of that that's going on, take that leap and talk to a counselor, talk to a behavioral health counselor. And a lot of the stigma behind the behavioral health field is, well, this counselor is going to judge me.
Yep.
Or if it's a survivor that's a male of sexual assault and they walk in and their counselor is a female, well, that's going to make me look weak in front of a woman. Counselors, behavioral health professionals are non-judgmental. It's not something that they can just get out on public square and just broadcast your information. Anyone that seeks help, they're protected in its Privacy Act protected information that is truly confidential to that person seeking help. And it's something that if it's an ongoing situation, that nightmares are just invading your dreams, make that step to talk with a counselor. And it's not going to be something that is going to be against someone in a negative way. It's going to strengthen them. And one of the mantras that is a biblical mantra, but the Army uses it a ton. Iron sharpens iron. And
Amen.
just really hone in on just getting your iron sharpened and retooling yourself and saying that it's okay. We're human. We deal with things differently, but at the same time, it's not a problem. It shouldn't be looked at as an infraction to seek out help through behavioral health. And an analogy that I use with my friends, I would say to like a military buddy, you got a laceration from an accident in your kitchen. What do? You call 911, you get rushed into the emergency room, pre-op, operation, post-op, aftercare, and you follow up and make sure that your wound isn't going to get infected. The same concept should be applied for behavioral health. Treat those nightmares like that accidental cut, laceration that you had in the kitchen, and seek help. And let that be the process to retool yourself, get support, and not let exterior stigmas keep you away from that.
Well said. Well said. And I mean, being that you got to be in this field that was pretty much your calling, how does it feel just being there and being able to help others and talk people, through stuff that you have gone through and being able to guide them? Just let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. Um, Doing victim advocacy, it's it, it is the dual therapeutic for me, because being able to have those empathetic conversations with survivors and saying to them, I know I've been in your shoes. I've had that feeling of a million to a trillion things just going through your head of what's next? How is this is going to happen? How am I being viewed? Did I wear something wrong? Did I put something on this way or that way to have this attention brought to me? There is so much that goes through someone's mind mentally. And as a victim advocate, it's it's me just basically saying it's human to do this. It's human to feel this way. You're I've been there, and don't necessarily let this be something to where you feel like you're alone or feel as if you're the only one that's going through this. I'm here to be there, to be your support, and to be that help guiding light or resources, talking you through just what all is going through your mind. And throughout the steps, whether I go into a hospital or a police interview room, it's me expressing that level of comfort and support, but also creating that empathetic pathway to a survivor by mentioning that it's it's normal to feel this way after something that you did not even would think could have happened to you. So it's quite the process, but I always double check with a survivor and say, "Are you comfortable with me representing you as your victim advocate?" And it's just I always want to make sure someone feels comfortable, because they could feel as if me being a male,
Yeah.
they're not comfortable with me being their advocate. And I always, it's no matter female or male, I always ask that question to just make sure, because I'm not going to assume as if the the opposite or the same sex was the aggressor. So I always make that question be the first question before
Like, are you okay?
establishing these pathways.
You okay? And that makes total sense too to do that because, like you said, that probably comes across a lot where people are just unsure. Like, I don't know if I could speak to you because you're a woman because I don't, the insecure feeling of, I don't, I wouldn't feel manly, and just how our society is painted for everything, not just that, but for other
Yes.
stuff as well. Like if we go to a job interview and it's a female, are you gonna approach her the same way you would with a male? Same with the opposite end, the male interviewing the woman. Are you gonna do the same thing? How are you gonna feel? Would you have the same conversation if it was the same sex or not?
Exactly.
So I totally
And
get it. I understand.
absolutely. But
And
I mean, as far as everything else goes, it's going on almost 3 years of me being an advocate. I quite recently became the diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinator with the Rape Crisis Center that I work for.
Congrats,
and
man. Congrats.
thank you.
Congrats. Good
So
job.
appreciate it.
Keep it up.
I it's something that it is truly thankful to be able to communicate the level of service that we do within the nonprofit rape crisis organization that I'm a part of to other nonprofit organizations, and just to make it clear that it's not just one walk of life that is qualified to seek services. Everyone that is a survivor, no matter whether they are a disabled veteran, black, white, disabled, elder, there's so many variables to it, and some some organizations feel as if it's only for someone that's within the certain criteria, and that's not the case. We're here to help survivors and co-survivors of sexual trauma, and being able to make connections with other nonprofit organizations. And I was able to connect with the NAACP and became their military veterans affairs coordinator, well, not coordinator, but chairperson with Stark County, and just being able to make connections, and then other organizations seeing what kind of work that you do, it just opens eyes to, wow, this is truly phenomenal that this organization is doing for the community, and how they're just creating this big help to survivors. And it's not just after the trauma happens. It's even if a survivor came in 5 years later after that happened, and had seek services around that time 5 years ago, it's service that is, the counseling is free for the survivor and co-survivor, and the services amongst the nonprofit organizations. A lot of the times they work with you, and then it's free services to just help with the different variations of what that ripple effect after that trauma happens, whether it's getting out of that neighborhood, finding housing and food, and just, it's just wonderful to be able to make those connections with other organizations that say, well, that's amazing that you're helping with this piece. We'll help with the next piece for this survivor moving forward.
And how just thinking about it right now, just thinking how incredible it is that you guys are touching on this, and it's being, the roots, the seed that you planted is growing its roots and it's branching out and blossoming and it's getting out there, and it's really like you said earlier, it's a topic that needs to be talked about, that needs to be accepted into society, to know that it is okay to talk about it. And I'm feeling right now somebody's watching, somebody's listening right now, right at this moment, and they're unsure if they want to go forth, and that because they're feeling insecure about it. They don't know if they can talk to somebody about it. And what do you want to tell that person right now?
I understand what you're going through, and these are tough times within your life, that the fear of the unknown is just so present with what all is going on. But it's not something, it's not a weakness. It's not something that someone else is going to look down on you for asking for help. It is a piece by piece building block strength to be cognizant of what all is going on and getting help with this level of trauma. It's normal. And when you think of a judge sitting down hearing a case, they hear the plaintiff's side of the story, they hear the defendant's side of the story. Sometimes you hear the judge say, before I make my ruling, I'm going to take this under advisement. That means a judge, from a judge to a CEO, they have board members they consult with, and they get help with making decisions. So the judge goes back to other colleagues and asks for help on a big case. So I would urge this person that it is okay being that even on the grander scale of things, CEOs, presidents, judges, they do the same thing when they're dealing with something within the corporate world or criminal justice world, what have you. They seek help, they seek advisement and get support from other members of their team. They even sometimes outsource to other entities and organizations to get help, get advisement. So it's a strength. It is a strength to ask for help. So please don't give up on yourself. Focus on retooling yourself and just really look at you looking for help, that person that is looking for help, as the stronghood, the establishment of how to handle the situation in a sanguine, more healthier way than just dealing with it and letting it bottle up and fester and creating so many different mental issues and even physical problems. That's what I would say.
Well said. Well said. Next question.
Yes.
Say somebody right now, a kid that's in foster care, dealing with the same battle that you did, and going through the same thing, just really don't know what to do in the position that they are in, the cards that they've been handed. What is your advice for that kid that's listening right now?
I would say to this kid, this child, that continue to ask for help, whether it's at your school, whether it's a teacher, a school counselor, your guardian ad litem, basically a child lawyer, children's services. Don't let anyone say that, like, don't let anyone speak for you. And what I mean by that is by undermining what you're saying, by saying this person is this good or has this reputation, and you know that whatever happened in that home or within your environment in your home happened. So continuously ask and ask for help. You, it's something that you go to school, you see a police officer, you see your teacher, you see your counselors, you see your principal, your vice principal. Take every measure to seek help and ask XYZ happened within this foster home. Do you think this is right? Do you think this is something that should be happening to me, or this level of treatment, is this a normal thing? Is this something that a normal family would do? And I would just continuously tell this child to just not give up, because it is important to just really drive that messaging home to these many figures, as I mentioned before, the message of, hey, I need help. I don't know if this is a right thing or a wrong thing that's going on, but please, can I talk to you about this? I don't think I'm safe in this situation. How can you help me?
Said. Is there anything else that you would like to add to your story?
Well, Chris, I would just want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come on and tell my story, because I wouldn't want someone, and the biggest, all of the reason why I wanted to come on to talk with you and tell my story is for that child that's going through hardship and doesn't understand and know where to turn, for that military veteran that's getting ready to separate and and just say, I don't know where to turn. These nightmares do not stop. What can I do?
Yeah.
For that survivor that is constantly in question of what clothing, how was I smelling? Did I have did I have too much or too less makeup to get this level of attention? For those different walks of life to just really, I just really want to drive that message home, that it is okay to reach out, seek help, and find that support system, whether it be with your pastor, your counselor, a close friend. It's important for your well-being mentally and physically. And it's, don't let anyone take you off that path, because if it is someone that is criticizing and ridiculing you for going that path, they're truly not someone that has your back. So I'm beyond humbly obliged that you had me on, and it was that important to just put that out there, and especially being that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and it's that much important to just, even if it wasn't Sexual Assault Awareness Month next month, it's something that I'm constantly am going to drive that messaging home, that help is a strength and not a weakness.
And I just simply want to say thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking my invitation and saying yes to it. And coming on and telling your incredible story. A story that is really that think it's going to hit home to a lot of people, without a doubt. People that are dealing with the same issue, the same battle. And I believe without a doubt they got a lot of answers here today.
And I was gonna say, even before I go, and hopefully I'm not taking too much time, but even before I separated from the Army, I'm an MST survivor, military sexual assault trauma survivor, and it was a part of life that was just really tough, of just getting surgery and trying to figure out life after the military, and just taking some time away from military life to just hang out. And someone, I don't know if someone put something in my drink when I were at the place that I was, or the establishment that I was hanging out at, and I was found in an alley, and I couldn't believe that it happened to me again. But it was something to where I said, although this happened, I know what to do. Went to the hospital, got my exam, my rape kit done, and moved forward with seeking help, and letting letting the people know in my corner that this happened to me, and I'm reaching out for help, and it's something that I said, although this happened again, this is not going to break who I am.
And I really hope, the guy that's watching right now that feels that it's too masculine to tell your side of the story and what happened to you. I hope hearing his story today has helped you to settle this, to finally come forth and tell it, and finally say, okay, enough's enough. I'm gonna finally come forth and tell my story. I'm tired of living with these flashbacks. I'm tired of living with this ongoing, just why me? And I hope right now, the person that's watching this, that's feeling that way, I hope this is your answer. I hope this is what you were looking for, because this is what it's all about, man. This is what this whole podcast is about. To hear stories that are here to inspire you, to encourage you, to let you know that you're not alone. You're not alone in this world. And what more of an incredible story. It might be kind of tough. It might be a little touchy, but it was definitely worth hearing. I'm so glad that you were able to come on here and tell your story, and just now let it be shared to the world for the people that truly, truly need to hear it more than ever right now. That are pretty much to their last ends, and they're feeling like there's no way out. And I hope that, when you come across this video, I hope this touches you. And I hope this is, like I said, I hope this is the answer that you're looking for, to let you know that you're okay. You're not alone. Everything's going to be okay, though. And now, I also want to add, too, is there any way that they could reach out to you and, actually talk to you personally or your company?
Yes. I'll put my I'll send my information, but I work with Compass Rape Crisis. We serve Stark, Tuscarawas, and Carroll counties. I'll put in I'll send you my contact information of how they can get in contact with Compass. And like I had mentioned, I do diversity, equity, and inclusion coordination. If there's any organizations out there that would like to partner with Compass, and just bridge that gap of making everything equitable, in regard of no matter what walk of life that is seeking help, would love to talk with you and see how we can be able to bridge that gap. And for anyone that is going through, that has been through, no matter how long ago or how not so long ago, that has been through sexual trauma, I will provide the information. For Stark County, the hotline is 330-452-1111. And for Tuscarawas County, it is 330-339-1427. It's a 24-hour number that is geared to hear your story and guide you in the right direction to a hospital, and a sane sexual assault nursing examiner will be there to just help be that guide around everything that's happening from square one all the way to the last step. And an advocate just like myself will be there and have your back and be that connection in saying that empathetically, we're here for you. And any other connecting services that we have available, we will be forthcoming to just put that all out there on the table to help and be that guiding support system towards healing and just making it be known that it's okay. We're here to help you, and it's not a weakness, it's a strength. And I'll definitely provide my information, and I'll send it, and it'll be something that you can post as far as it goes, Chris. And I just, again, I thank you so much. Thank you so much for just hearing my story, to just get that message out there to those survivors, foster children, military veterans that are trying to separate into civilian life, or MST survivor, military sexual trauma survivor. It means so much to be able to get that message out there and to just make it be known that it's building on strength to ask for help, and it's not a weakness.
I'm truly honored, once again, and I'll say it again, truly honored that you're able and willing to come on here and use this platform to share your story so that it can be heard to others, to let them know they're not alone. But as I wrap this thing up, I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This is Chris. You heard the story today. And I just want to say thank you once again. Until next time, peace.